So, if you're not aware, Netflix is currently in the process of buying Warner Bros. And there's some, like, the last thing I saw was maybe Paramount's going to get it because they put in a bigger bid. I also saw some dude that apparently put in a $54,000 bid to buy it. I don't think that one's going through. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter to me who ends up buying Warner Bros. It matters to me what they do with the Warner Bros. Properties, with their IP, with the things that they own. Because if you're also not aware, Warner Bros. Is the company that owned Monolith Productions, and Monolith Productions is the company that made Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor, which is why Warner Bros. Owns the patent, Warner Bros. Entertainment specifically owns the patent for the Nemesis system. And if you're not aware of what the Nemesis system is, like, I don't know how long you've been around on the internet and gaming space, but the Nemesis system is the system that was used in Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor that created a kind of dynamic environment, a no playthroughs the same environment. It's the thing that allowed for, and what the patent generally covers. I got the patent up right here. What the patent is covering is it's titled Nemesis Characters, Nemesis Forts, Social Vendettas, and Followers in Computer Games. Methods for managing non-player characters and power centers in a computer game are based on character hierarchies and individual correspondences between each character's traits or rank, and events that involve other non-player characters or objects. Players may share power centers, character hierarchies, non-player characters, and related quests involving the shared objects with other players playing separate and unrelated game instances over a computer network, with the outcome of the quest reflected in different the games. That's weird. Various configurations of game machines are used to implement the methods. This is basically, it's covering the core mechanics of how Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor work. You own the fort. You have the the captains. Those captains are unique and they're different. If you die, they become more powerful, and basically a lot. I'm not going to go into huge detail about it. I think I talked about it in a previous video. I'm not going to go huge detail about what everything that Nemesis system covers, but it's the core mechanic of Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor. And ever since Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor, gamers have been begging for the Nemesis system to come back. They have been shouting and screaming, and Warner Bros., please, please make a new game with the Nemesis system. And Warner Bros. Said, yeah, we'll do it. We're going to make the Wonder Woman game have the Nemesis system. And then they shelved the Wonder Woman game. And there hasn't been any talk from anyone at Warner Bros. About using the Nemesis system since then. It's just a patent that they have that they got, that they, from like some of the stuff that I read, basically they thought this will make the game infinitely replayable. This will stop people from trading in the game and giving the game away and blah blah blah. They'll want to keep playing this game because every playthrough is going to be a little bit different. And there is some truth to that in Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor, where like every game playthrough is a little bit different, and I do go back and replay it occasionally, but it's not so different. Like the way it's implemented is not so different that it really makes it a unique playthrough every time. Like certain games like that use like procedural generation or other things like that, every playthrough is a unique experience. I mean, you might follow the same basic, hey, I'm going to get this, and then I'm going to get this, I'm going to get this, but every playthrough is a unique experience. This is like, oh, the guy that's coming to attack me is a little bit different, just the way they implemented it. But because they own the patent, no other game studio can try to improve upon it, really. And there is a level of, like, with patents and with that, like, if you make a significant enough improvement to it, then it's a whole new thing kind of thing. But like no one can really take that Nemesis system and try to re-implement it and include it in their game and make it better. So effectively, Warner Bros. Created a system that everyone loved. They did it pretty well for what the game was. And then from what I saw, they were with Wonder Woman, like some of the I don't know if these were more theories and conjecture, but some of the theories at the very least were that, hey, they couldn't figure out how to implement it in a satisfying way in Wonder Woman, and they realized it was just going to be more work than it's worth, and they just kind of gave up on the Nemesis system, but they still hold the patent. And so it's effectively, from what that's making it seem like, is, hey, they created this really great thing that everyone loved, and they didn't know how to use it anymore. But they said, fuck everyone else, no one else gets to use it. That's effectively what seems to be happening here. That's been the status quo for a while now, ever since they released it. They applied for the patent in 2016. They got the patent. They got the patent in 2021, and it doesn't expire until 2036. So we gamers have been wanting to see this again, have just been kind of sitting on our thumbs and being like, hey, or twiddling our thumbs, uh, and saying, hey, we're never going to see this again, or we're not going to see it for a number of years. But now with Netflix's potential acquisition, or whoever ends up buying Warner Bros. Acquisition of Warner Bros., they now have the opportunity. They're going to be acquiring this patent. They're going to be acquiring the IP. They're going to be acquiring all this stuff, and they now have the opportunity to, oh my god, to use it or release it or give it away or license it out. And that is something I think a lot of us, when I first saw this, that this was happening, I didn't really think of that at first, but then my editor actually was the one that said, "Hey, does this mean this could happen, or this means this could happen? You should talk about it." I was like, oh my god, that could happen. That could happen. I said I want to talk about it. I didn't talk about it yet. I haven't talked about it yet until this moment because I was like, there's not really much there yet. But now there's a change.org petition. And I know what you guys are going to say. I know what you guys are going to say. A change.org petition doesn't do really much. But let me go over the change.org petition first and explain what I think this can lead to. Explain why I think that this might be a good thing and why this could have a lot of effect. So, the change.org petition is made by a man named Jared Travis. The change.org petition is titled Ask Netflix to Unlock the Nemesis System. It currently has 612 signatures and it's about to have 613. Never donate money. I'm going to say this right here, and I've talked about this with my petition that I had. Never donate money to a change.org petition. It doesn't do anything. Make videos about it. Share links about it. Do that. I'm going to copy this link right now, and I'm going to share it. Ask Netflix to unlock the Nemesis system. The issue. For nearly a decade, the Nemesis system has been one of the most groundbreaking innovations in modern gaming. First introduced in Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor, this system introduced dynamic rivalries, emergent storytelling, and AI-driven character progression in ways that were previously unimaginable. Despite its revolutionary potential, the Nemesis system has been tightly controlled behind restrictive licensing, stifling its broader adoption across the industry. Imagine a world where RPGs, action games, strategy games, roguelikes, and survival games are infused with emergent narratives and dynamic characters, made possible through the widespread availability of the Nemesis system. The opportunities for innovation, creativity, and enriched gameplay experiences are boundless. However, indie developers and smaller studios have faced significant barriers in accessing this game-changing technology due to licensing restrictions. This has kept the system's full potential from being realized. Now, with the recent acquisition of Warner Bros. And its associated game patents by Netflix, there exists a historic, and I don't think they've actually acquired it yet. Exists a historic opportunity to change the industry's trajectory. By unlocking the Nemesis system and offering it under a fair, transparent, and affordable license, Netflix could become a pillar of support for developers, cherished for its inclusivity and commitment to advancing game development. This move would not only enhance Netflix's reputation as an industry leader, but also set new standards for promoting innovation and creativity in gaming. We are calling on Netflix to drive this change, opening the doors for countless possibilities that can inspire a new generation of game developers. Sign the petition to ask Netflix to make the Nemesis system accessible to all game developers and help usher in a new era of gaming innovation. Your signatures could be a key to unleashing the potential of one of gaming's most innovative mechanics or inventive mechanics. So that's the petition. What the petition for, it kind of says like two things depending on like which parts of it you read. But what it's specifically like calling for, and I think the more likely thing to happen here, is for Netflix to start licensing out and start licensing out so other game developers can pay a fee and use that mechanic in their own games and maybe pay like some level of royalties. Like, hey, we use this mechanic and we take 10% of the profits or something. I don't know. It depends on whatever deal they decide to work out. What it also kind of says is, the thing that might not happen is it's saying make the Nemesis system accessible to all game developers. I doubt that will ever happen. Because Netflix, that would be dumb from them, right? That would be kind of dumb from them. I mean, it might buy them a little bit of goodwill, but they don't really need it. They're kind of like an industry leader, so that goodwill's not going to get them anywhere. It's not going to help them all that much, and they're not doing anything evil. So, right, I mean, you know, maybe, but they're not like doing anything evil, so they're not really harming themselves right now. They're just buying a company. But what I think would happen, could potentially happen, and this is why. What I think is more likely to happen, and this is why I think that this petition needs to be signed. And despite the fact that change.org petitions at their core don't really do a lot. I've described it, and I had my own change.org petition that was very, very successful. I described it as shouting into the void and hoping someone listens. And the more signatures you got, the more people you have shouting into the void and hoping someone listens. So really what a change.org petition allows you to do is get your voice more likely to be heard. The more popular it gets, the more people might start talking about it, the more likely a content creator might pick it up, the more people are going to hear about it, and then in this case, the more likely someone from Netflix is going to hear about it. And what that would allow is Netflix to see that yes, this is a big deal. If they weren't aware, or maybe if they're aware but they didn't think it was that much of a big deal, they are now going to be made more aware that this is a big opportunity for them. This is a very big opportunity for them to make possibly a lot of money by either utilizing this game mechanic with their own game production, because they own Warner Bros. Game studios now, so they can use that internally to develop more games and then make use of the Nemesis system in them. But they could also do what's being suggested here and license the Nemesis system out to more developers. I saw something, I'm gonna Google it real quick. So here's the quote. Speaking during a conference presentation about the deal reported on by Pocket Gamer, Netflix co-CEO Greg Peters responded to a question about whether buying Warner Bros. Would accelerate its own gaming plans. He said that while Warner Bros. Had done great work in the gaming space, we actually didn't attribute any value to that from the get-go because they're relatively minor compared to the grand scheme of things. Now, we are super excited because some of those properties that they built, Hogwarts is a great example of that, have been done quite well, and we think that we can incorporate that into what we're offering. They've got great studios and great folks working there, so we think there's definitely an opportunity there. But just to be clear, we haven't built that into our deal. Effectively, and one of the reasons why I think this change.org petition is also a really good idea, is Netflix has not really looked at the game studios and that side of it when they were considering this deal. So they might not be making a lot of their financial plans around this, or the stuff that they want to get done with this purchase around the gaming IP that Warner Bros. Owns. And yeah, they're going to be thinking about Hogwarts and Hogwarts Legacy and stuff like that, because obviously that's a very, very popular game. That's a very big game. And that's one that is directly related and kind of way to like the streaming space, because also they have the movies and blah, 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 and all that different stuff. But they haven't really considering it that much, which means they might not be thinking about the Nemesis system. But if something like this, if a petition like this gets really, really big, if a content creator picks it up, if someone that with like not like me, a content creator, I'm a very low level content creator, but like if Charlie or like Charlie, I'm thinking, or like I don't know, Emiru, or like any of these other big content creators in the space pick it up and start talking about it, and now Netflix is becoming more and more aware of, not only is this like a niche thing that some people are interested in, but this is a really, really big deal. They are more likely to use that internally and make their own games with it. And if they don't really, if they're not really valuing that space that much, at the very least they say like, hey, now we own this patent that people are gonna want to use, and we can start licensing it out. So we might be seeing the Nemesis system come back, just because of the fact that Netflix bought it, and they might not be as stingy with licensing out or with using it as Warner Bros. Is. But also, if a petition like this takes off, and if enough people start talking about it, Netflix is going to be more likely to see, or if Paramount ends up buying it, Paramount, whoever ends up buying Warner Bros. Is going to be more likely to see the value of this patent and of this game mechanic, and find a way to incorporate it into their business model, be that through developing games that use it or through licensing it out. And just quick notes, one of the things I think might end up happening here too with Netflix's acquisition of this, and if Netflix is the one that ends up with Warner Bros., I think we're more likely to see another gaming subscription service because that's what Netflix's model is based around, right? Netflix's entire model is based around like subscription services and signing up for a subscription service. So I have a feeling if Netflix is the one that ends up with Warner Bros., what is very, very likely to happen, and even if Paramount is, because Paramount has Paramount Plus, with Warner Bros., or if Netflix ends up with Warner Bros., what we might end up seeing is a Netflix gaming service, like a Netflix gaming subscription, similar to like Xbox Game Pass, where now all these Warner Bros. Games and any future games developed by them, you don't necessarily have to buy them, kind of thing, where you can just pay for the subscription and then play the game as long as you have the subscription, kind of thing. I have a feeling that might be one of the things we end up seeing. Just as a little side note, add to one of the first things I thought when I saw that this acquisition was happening. Hopefully, at the very least, it does mean the release of the Nemesis system. I'm hoping, I'm really, really hoping that Netflix doesn't do what some of these other companies do and try to put too much influence onto the game studio and like kind of tell the game studio what to be doing, because I'm hoping they leave the game studio in the hands of like the creative team at the game studios, because one of the unfortunate things that you see happen a lot of times in these cases, and I know there's times when it doesn't happen, I know it's not always the case, but one of the things that happens a lot of times, I've talked about this before, is the further away you get from the creative team, the further away the head of the company gets from the creative team developing the games, the worse the games are, the worse the soul of the games is, because the more that that person influences what's happening, the more that that person tries to make the game appealing to everyone, and the game, have this fact in it because, oh, this might sell better, this might make it more marketable, or this might lower the game rating for so we can sell it to more people, or this might do this, or might do that. The more it takes the soul away from the game, and the worse game you get. So I'm hoping that Netflix with this just ends up saying like, hey, game studio, do what you will. You guys make us money, and we're gonna leave you the hell alone. I doubt it. I really doubt it. But I am hoping that that's the case. But with that, that was just my little side tangent about it. But ultimately, the big thing here, the big do out here, sign this petition. Everyone, sign this petition. I have 8,000 some subs. They don't, all of them don't watch all my videos, but like if everyone that watches this video signs this petition, it might blow up that much faster. So do it, get on it, sign the petition. But with that, I will leave the video here. If you want to help me in my personal fight against patent trolling and video game mechanics, consider donating to my GoFundMe. I am working on developing a online publicly accessible database of prior art for video game mechanics and video game other, and just it'll eventually spread to other like prior art and things in video games that will allow the USPTO a very easy source, and any other patent company's patent and trademark office, an easy source to see whether or not prior art existed for these video game mechanics, so that the next time some shady company like Nintendo tries to patent something that has been being done for decades, the USPTO will be able to say, no, you can't do that because that patent already, or that game mechanic has already existed. It will also allow, and I talk about that in my interview with with a lawyer that is in the patent trademark space. It'll also allow the video game companies, the indie devs, and the law firms to easily access the prior art when they're fighting the cases. If you want to help me on a more personal level, consider clicking on the playlist over there. That is my storytelling channel. I tell stories on that channel. It's fun for me. It's cathartic for me. Yeah. BoxWizard52, again, thank you for him. He's my only... I'm so out of it, apparently. He's my only Tier 3 member. If you want to get your name shouted out at the end of videos, consider signing up for memberships. All the money from the memberships goes straight to my editor till it reaches such a point that I can afford to hire him on full time. There's probably something else that I'm missing right here. But with that, sign the petition, donate to the GoFundMe, click on the playlist. Goodbye. Fuck Nintendo, and please do the right thing, Netflix.